I don't know about y'all, but I could do with a little rewind, a little look back, a little nostalgia right about now. And I can always go for some quality time with beautiful art. So it's a good thing the Other Art Fair is back in Chicago, April 9th through the 12th. This year's theme is Nostalgia Core. So you can find a curated selection of interactive artist-led projects that celebrate those memories that make us, a little misty-eyed. Support 115 plus independent artists and meet them in person at Artifact events in Ravenswood. Tickets start at just $20. Book them now at theotherartfair.com.
Hey, Chicago, it's executive producer Simone Alicea here. At the end of today's episode, we have a sponsored segment with special guest Nicole Garten, Global Director of the Other Art Fair. It's happening April 9th through the 12th, and she's going to talk to me about how this artist-led fair is shaking up the traditional gallery scene, bringing together more than 100 independent artists, affordable original artwork, and this year's Nostalgia Core themed experience. So stick around after the show if you're curious about discovering new artists and experiencing art in a way that feels a lot less like a gallery and a lot more like a creative playground.
Today on CityCast Chicago, rumors of a Pritzker presidential run only grow louder following the primaries. Airport traffic during spring break could get real bad out there, y'all. And we're checking in on what y'all had to say about our Breakfast Sammy March Madness bracket. It's Monday, March 23rd. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. I am joined today by executive producer Simone Alicea, back in the building. How you feeling today?
I'm okay, Jacoby. How are you?
Another day. We've also got contributor Lee John Greco in the building with us. Lee, how you doing?
I'm good. I was ready to, be rid of this election, and now you got me talking about the primaries again.
Right?
It's got a tail.
I try to get out and you keep pulling me back in.
We honestly lied to ourselves. We were like, we need a break. We need to stop. But as the dust settled, the stories was coming out, right?
You got a post-game analysis, right?
Right.
True.
You gotta
True.
just see what's going on.
I get it.
Right, because we're not out of here just yet, right? Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton's win in the Senate primary was historic. It sets up a general face-off against Republican nominee Don Tracy. But a lot of the headlines I've been seeing over the last few days have been really focused on her former running mate, Governor J.B. Pritzker. A lot of the national headlines are inside J.B. Pritzker's power play, Pritzker's gamble to become a kingmaker, Pritzker's big night. In many ways, it seems like maybe he's consolidating his power in the Democratic Party. Lee, what do you think? Are you buying into this new Pritzker machine?
Yeah, it's interesting because I wrote about this for MS Now the day before the primary about, what's going to happen with Pritzker's endorsement with Stratton if he loses. Is it going to be a huge embarrassment for him? If he wins, does it make him a kingmaker? And at the time, folks that I interviewed, like Bill Daley, for example, were saying, yeah, if he wins, it'll probably cement him as this kingmaker. It'll be good for him. But if he loses, it won't be that bad, which is interesting because a couple of years ago when I wrote about what the DNC in Chicago meant for Pritzker, people were saying the same thing. They were like, oh, if the DNC is great, Pritzker gets all of the credit. And if it goes badly, all of the blame goes on Mayor Brandon Johnson, which is kind of lousy.
What is driving kind of Pritzker's like Teflon nature here? Like, why does it seem like these potential losses? Because I think back to like the early in his tenure and the loss of the graduated income tax, right, at the ballot. That was sort of seen as a really big, like, oh man, you really kind of,
right.
And really it felt like you got outspent in a place that it felt like your advantage was you got the money.
Yeah.
It felt like the other billionaires outspent him on that one. So it was like you lost politically and it seemed like you lost financially.
But since then, it seems like he takes these big swings. He put up, he dropped like $11 million in 2022 during local midterms for Illinois Democrats. it seems like he's taking these big swings, but it seems like the sort of general thought is even if he loses, it maybe won't be that bad. Like, why? How does that even work?
I don't know how that works because to be honest, as someone who covers Illinois politics, I don't understand how, because when you look at Johnson, for example, and you look at, we're going through this right now with the tipped minimum wage,
Right.
right? It was a huge win for him, a huge legislative win. And now that that's been rolled back, it's like, oh man, what does this
Well, and he's got to
say
employ another
about
veto. It's like which is like a lot of
exactly?
vetoes for a recent mayor. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
he's had what? I think three major vetoes at this
This is his
point.
third, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so, when that happens, it's like, oh, he's really weak going into the next mayoral. Whereas, yeah, with Pritzker, I honestly do not, I wish I had a savvy political pundit answer for you of like why it doesn't touch him. Also, it's not like Illinois itself is in amazing shape. Like, we're in pretty dire financial straits right now. So honestly, I don't have an answer. I mean, I guess I would say nationally, he does have this presence where he is the foil to Trump, right? Like there's sort of two sides of the same coin, right? They're both super rich guys, but one is, this egomaniac, and then the other is like, people joke that JB is like the people's billionaire. Like he is not only very progressive, but he's also the guy who shows up at the gay pride parade in Chicago and like takes a shot that's thrown at him from the crowd. He just kind of seems like a normal guy. So I don't know. I think maybe like outside of Illinois, that has a lot of appeal. Um, but yeah, in terms of like why he just keeps on winning even when he loses, I don't really know. What I can say is that Tuesday night, obviously, he had a great night. I know everybody's talking about Juliana Stratton, who obviously he not only endorsed, but poured millions into her campaign. But Illinois comptroller, his endorsement for Margaret Croak, she also won. There was
Sort of
also
eked out that win, though. That was pretty close.
that's true. That's true. I mean, that's also one of those races that I think a lot of people aren't following that, right? It's kind of like the judges' races as well. Those are like what we call low information races, right? Which, maybe Pritzker had the same effect that like an Irish last name has for a judge, right? People just think like, oh, okay, yeah, I know that Pritzker endorsed her, so let's go with that.
I told Simone that earlier this week. My mama said if Pritzker was running to be a dog catcher, I'd vote for him. Uh, and
And
and I
why
do
is that?
I do think there are a few things here. One, I think he's buoyed by consistency,
Mm,
particularly being the governor pre-pandemic, during it, and post, whereas the city has had multiple mayors during that time. I think he had
hmm
some really early big wins, some of which we are criticizing to this day. But I think at the time coming in, codifying reproductive rights, major
hmm
cannabis legalization, the Safety Act over time, getting gambling
The
like
sports betting,
expanded,
yeah.
sports
Yeah,
betting
right.
expanded in the state. There have been some labor wins like guaranteed paid leave, his focus on childcare. Again,
hmm
I do think your point about the way Mayor Brandon Johnson has taken a lot of criticism, even similar to his predecessor, Lori Lightfoot. I do think Pritzker, let's be honest, billionaire white guy walks this line where he is
hmm
a Chicago supporter and stand and constantly is pushing back against negative narrative. Uh,
hmm
but I do think his like sort of contentious relationship with both Lori Lightfoot and now Mayor Brandon Johnson, so he can still sort of live in some of shifting that blame on Chicago.
hmm
Let's sort of focus on how Chicago isn't getting things done in sort of maybe contrast to the ways he isn't facing that much pushback in his legislator, but Brandon Johnson is seeing growing tension with the city council. And so I
Yeah.
think from a local level, he has been able to walk the line where we say He's taking a lot of credit for the wins and what I would call some easy layups. And on some of those bigger concerns around, for example, the rise in migrants being sent to the city from the southern border. Like, there are a lot of questions around how the state funded that and the amount of money they did or didn't put up for local infrastructure in Chicago and in the surrounding suburbs. But who took the brunt of that criticism was Mayor Brandon Johnson. And I think Pritzker leaned in there in some ways.
Oh, yeah. He threw
Johnson under the bus.
Yeah,
multiple times.
There we go, right? He leaned in there and tossed my man's at every single bus that was coming up the street. And so I think that plays into it. And like when I talked to my mom, you know, another thing is she's like, this is about big money. And he has the money to self-fund his campaigns. And so he's pretty much a shoe-in for a record
he's not seen as big money himself. That's kind of what's wild about it, I think. It's like...
Then people's name is on everything. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know how he's walked the line in which people at this point, I think, are as contentious with the billionaire class as they've been in my entire lifetime. But I do think there is some sense amongst the electorate that, like, we gonna need money in this fight. Look how much is pouring into the elections. You know, money is the only thing that's gonna fight money. And so he has never hidden it, right? He is clearly throwing millions into his own campaigns, into his second in command's campaign. And so again, going for a record third term as a Democrat in a state only one of 13 that doesn't have term limits, he can pretty much ride this if he wants to. And I think that will he, won't he, it's the reason we're talking about it right now. Does this give him more momentum towards a potential presidential run? It's the reason we've been having this conversation for years now.
I mean, it's pretty clear that he's going to run for president. The way that not only like he sets himself up as a national figure, but also just like everybody who works for him is clearly quite thirsty for it as well. You know, the fact that Pritzker's team put up such a fight for the DNC, they were very aggressive on that. Almost at times, like from what I've heard from other people in the Democratic Party, too aggressive, like to the point of being annoying. Yeah. To your point on, you know, the whole like throwing Johnson under the bus too. I mean, Pritzker's done that to Johnson. He's done that to Lori. And, you know, definitely, I think like the fact that like he's a white billionaire, you know, gives him an easier ride than those two mayors as well, who, you know, are both Black, Lori being a Black gay woman as well. But also, I wonder, especially when it comes to like Pritzker versus Johnson, I wonder if the reason that Pritzker has this more like Teflon reputation and somebody like Johnson doesn't is that I think Pritzker's communication team might just be better, you know, like they're better at spending stuff. They're better at, I don't want to say like, I mean, I'm
the
thinking
people around you matter right now. The mayor got deputy mayors like having to resign right now.
Darren Gatewood, just got fired. Yes. I mean, so we're recording this on Friday. So this just happened Thursday. But yeah, so I think like communication really matters. And Johnson's team, frankly, hasn't done that. And he just lost one of his top comms folks to Zoran pretty recently. So, you know, he's going to be on the struggle bus for a little bit.
The only thing I want to add just in terms of any potential wrinkle into Pritzker's national platform or agenda here is Congressional Black Caucus, you know, has come out criticizing Pritzker for his support of Stratton, right? So these are Black Congress members who really wanted Robin Kelly to win in this primary and sort of felt like Pritzker throwing his muscle around was sort of an affront to them, like it was sort of like an insult to that caucus. And they kind of were like, okay, we'll remember this in 2028. You know what I mean? Which is kind of interesting.
I looked into what some of them had to say. According to Politico, Mississippi Rep Benny Thompson said he has to justify what he did. I'm sure at some point, if he decides to run, he'll have to come with that justification. Ohio Rep Joyce BD said, keep in mind the Democratic candidate for president that prevails has to go through the CBC, and we're very strategic. We'll lay out the framework. New York Rep Gregory Meeks, who chairs the Congressional Black Caucus PAC, was asked if they'll reach out to Pritzker, and he replied, we don't need to reach out to the governor. Some were a little softer. South Carolina Democrat Rep Jim Clyburn said, pretty much we saw this coming. That was his second in command, also a black woman. He has to stand alongside them, and he was free to support anyone. And so I do think there is room, especially when we're talking about who's going to be supporting whose campaign. If he's running for Democratic figurehead, there's going to be some push and pull here where, sure, he's going to need them and their constituencies, but also they're going to be looking for their campaign coffers to be filled as well. And as he's shown, as you point out, Simone, he could spread the money around Illinois, and he clearly got the bag to spread it around the country. And so we see them fundraisers in New Hampshire, JB Pritzker. We see the annual steak fry in Iowa. Those two events he's attended over
New Hampshire and Iowa. Why would you be there?
Just for fun. He just really wants a steak fry, guys.
And so eventually, I understand at this moment, right after Congressperson Robin Kelly finishes in third, you got to come out for your girl. You got to come out for a member of your caucus with a lot of steam. But I do think as the months pass, again, as Pritzker potentially submits himself for three-time governor, I think their tune might change a little bit, Access Contemporary Music's Sound of Silent Film Festival is now in its 21st year. And I already know what you're thinking. Kobe, this an audio medium, and that sound a bit like an oxymoron. Doesn't a silent film festival just sound like this? But here's the thing. This festival features newly composed musical scores performed live, so it's movies and a concert. These silent films were selected from more than 100 submissions to an international call, and they span comedy, drama, experimental, and beyond. Plus, they short. Each one is only about 2 to 15 minutes long. And to top it all off, the festival is at none other than the Music Box Theater, one of my favorite spots in the city and a beautiful setting for this kind of event. The Sound of Silent Film Festival is happening Wednesday, April 8th at 7:30 p.m. Tickets are available at acmusic.org.
Hi, CityCast listeners. This is David Plotz. I'm the CEO of CityCast, but I also have another job. I'm one of the hosts of the Political Gabfest, Slate's politics podcast. Every week, I get on mic with my co-hosts Emily Bazelon and John Dickerson, and we talk about politics and a lot more about other things that we care about. The Gabfest has been going for more than 20 years because the three of us love talking to each other, and we have an amazing community of listeners. If you like the open-hearted, curious way CityCast approaches cities, I think you'll like the Political Gabfest too. Stream it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast.
So CPS spring break starts today. The kids going to be outside. Obviously, the tourists going to be flocking to Chicago to take part in our 60-degree days. But Simone, what does that mean for the rest of us who trying to get up out of here, especially as we in the middle of another partial government shutdown? Which, I'll be honest, I think this might be the first time we've actually said that on the podcast.
We haven't talked about this one,
but we have not talked about this one. What does this mean for our airports? I think I was right after the last one shut down. I flew out to Houston. It was a little backed up, but it wasn't delayed. I called a decent day. What is it looking like right now?
Yeah, it's not amazing. So there's a couple things going on. Number one, you have this partial government shutdown, which just probably means staffing shortages, both for TSA, so like security line stuff, but also we worry, everyone worries about staffing shortages for, safety people as well, right? People directing flights and things like that. And so that can lead to delays like we saw in the fall. On top of that, as you said, it's spring break. It's spring break season. It's a big kind of travel moment, particularly for O'Hare Airport. And, I think it was someone from United told Axios, like, this is going to be a stress test. Like, navigating this season along with the government shutdown or the partial shutdown. And so like if you are a CPS family that has just traveled or is on the way back, I wish you patience. I think a lot of people saw video out of Newark, New Jersey recently where there were like security lines like out the door. And there are worries that things like that could happen here. And then of course, on top of that, the erratic weather doesn't help. We already had a bunch of cancellations and delays, last weekend because of storms. I think the forecast is looking pretty okay for now, but it's March, that could change. And then on top of all that, is O'Hare is already struggling with how busy it is. In fact, the FAA is expected to cut hundreds of flights because it's just too many. It's
Said y'all
jammed.
doing too much. Y'all already historically known for being delayed. I think right now, only 75% of flights are maybe going out on time.
It's really rough, particularly those domestic flights. Those domestic flights are really where you're going to be feeling those delays. And it's interesting because it was like, at the start of the year, O'Hare was named for the first time in a while, reclaimed busiest airport in the US, but it was sort of like as a result of that. And then of course you had United announcing, we're going to be doing this many more flights this summer. American, Lee, you were on talking about the way United and American are competing for gate space, and they're doing so by being like, well, we're going to fly you to more places. And then the FAA is like, well, actually, how are you going to do that? How are you going to fly to all those places? There's not enough room. There's not enough gates. What are you going to do?
And they're afraid of it becoming a Newark situation. Like, that's why the FAA is saying, you guys got to roll this back. And then also, I talked about this a bit in that last podcast. O'Hare is also undergoing massive construction.
They can afford to spruce the place up. There was a lot of tape out there, a lot of dirt, a lot of construction going on. It's like, hey, y'all maybe clean some of this up. Maybe get some of this out the way.
Yeah, for sure.
What I am really upset by is, so during the last government shutdown, I had international travel scheduled during that shutdown. I once again have international travel coming up. So I'm going to be at O'Hare later in April. And I don't know that I have faith that Congress is going to reach some kind of deal on Department of Homeland Security funding or not increasing funding to Homeland Security. Not sure how confident I am that that's going to come together. And so I guess the moral of the story is I shouldn't plan travel because that's when the government shuts down. I don't know. That's the only conclusion I guess I can take from that.
I do think
stay
though,
home, Simone. Just stay
home. Yeah.
I do think, though, for people who are genuinely concerned about funding DHS and, whether we should give any more funding to ICE and CBP, when you do think about it, I get it. It is a huge pain in the neck for all of us in Chicago who fly in and out of O'Hare. But overall, there's kind of a small number of Americans who fly. So I almost feel like this is a pretty small pain to have to go through to put pressure on members of Congress to not fund CBP and ICE. So not that makes it any better for all of us who have to fly. It's a huge, huge pain in the butt. But I think
it's not the pressure point. It may look like.
Yeah.
It's not like SNAP funding was. SNAP funding hit everybody across the board, all across the country. Whereas this is probably affecting, a relatively small number of Americans.
But I do think the economic effects are maybe the ones that people are watching, right? When it comes to the airports, right? There's a reason we care so much about the business of O'Hare, and it's because it brings in money for the city. Both in terms of tourists, but it is the entry point for the massive convent. If we want to have the DNC in 2028, God forbid, the airport is the gateway for stuff like that. When we talk about, revenue, it's just another way for the city to get money, but also just shifting revenue around, getting money being spent in Chicago. So I think that economic pressure, even though it might only affect a directly a small percentage of people who are actually traveling, I think the powers that be are also concerned about just what will this do more broadly to to the economy as well.
Very true.
We're not all primary post gaming and airport delays over here, y'all. We are also in the middle of our very own March Madness tournament right now, and I hope to crown Chicago's best breakfast sandwich. We recently polled our readers and listeners. Simone, where are we at right now?
Right. So we had, I think, 16 potential breakfast sandwiches, narrowed it down to 8. And now I am pleased to announce the final 4. And the final 4 top breakfast sandwiches, as voted on by our readers and listeners, as selected by us and some of our guests, are the breakfast wrap from Goddess and Grocer's various locations, the breakfast sandwich from Build Coffee in Woodlawn, the sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich from Loaf Lounge in Avondale, and of course, although in a fourth place here, the Kasama breakfast sandwich, of course, the subject of many an Instagram foodies video, I would say, and much hype.
Like I need to try each of these this week.
I have not yet had the Kasama breakfast sandwich. When I finally went there, I had just like the regular breakfast plate. I don't know, it was like eggs and like the sausage and everything. I will say the Kasama like baked goods, like the pastries and stuff, those blew my mind. They had this like truffle croissant with like this sugar on top that was kind of gray looking, which doesn't sound good, but it really was.
Watching you describe it though, I like watching you go back to that moment was perfect.
Yeah. It's for people who are just listening to this and not watching clips of it. I did the little like salt bay thing with my hands. But overall, like I kind of felt like the Kasama breakfast, again, I didn't have the sandwich, but I was like, okay, this is like just as good as the Filipino food that I've had at like Bayan Co, which I feel like everybody talks about Kasama, and I'm like,
I feel exactly the same way, Lee.
And you know what? The only reason I don't talk about Bayan Co is because I don't want to blow it up so much that there's a line.
It's already hard enough to go in for brunch on a weekend, to be honest.
Yeah, but I haven't had the other breakfast sandwiches. Were there any breakfast burritos?
There are breakfast burritos on this bracket. We have the wrap. Yeah. We have the breakfast wrap from Goddess and Grocer, but no, I don't think there's anything on this list that had burrito in the name.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's so bizarre to me is Chicago has a huge Mexican population, and yet I have yet to have a good breakfast burrito. My white whale breakfast burrito was in Homer, Alaska. That was the best breakfast burrito I've ever had. And yet why have I not?
You should try the breakfast burrito at Bayan Co. They have 3 different ones.
Oh, they do?
They're all really tasty. They're very good.
Okay, great. There we go. Problem solved. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to go. I've had, I want to say 3 of the 4 of these. I don't think I've had the Loaf Lounge. So I need to go have each one within the next week or so. Simone, when is this wrapping up so I can set myself a date to have all 4 so that I can make my vote very much informed?
Hopefully before March.
Can I say one last thing?
Please.
This is not about any of the restaurants on this list, but this is just like a general beef that I have. People need to stop making in their breakfast sandwiches the egg into a patty. You know what I mean? When it's like a square or round patty.
Hard disagree.
Yeah, I'm like, what do you want to just like?
Yeah, you want to
run it loose.
What do you?
No. I want scrambled eggs, like when you make scrambled eggs and they're like just like kind of mashed up and loose and they're chopped. And then you just throw them on the breakfast
hard disagree.
sandwich.
Oh,
hard
that's so
disagree.
messy.
No.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. No.
So
Listen. Okay.
Like, do you want it scramble hard or do you want it like scramble medium, scramble easy?
I like it a little. I like a loose, slightly wet scramble. And the thing with the patty is people. These patties taste like rubber. Remember when you were a kid and you had a toy kitchen and you had like patties like that and they were rubbery? That's what it tastes like. They're not nailing it. I reached out to like one of my favorite places where I used to get this like amazing breakfast sandwich on a really good bagel, and they used to do the loose eggs, and I reached out to
Loose
them via
eggs.
loose eggs.
Lee, we
Loose
can't have
eggs.
you can't be making an argument for something and make it sound so unappealing.
Okay,
Nigga said
like
loose
I'm sorry,
eggs,
but like
bro.
when it comes to scrambled eggs, like they should be messy. They should. I have this argument with my
I
mom all the
love a
time.
medium scrambled egg for sure.
Yeah.
And I'll take a piece of toast and put some
Yes,
on it, or a bagel
Yeah.
and put a little bit on it. But I
Yeah.
don't know if I want to open a wrapped sandwich and have to hold
See what
in.
I think if I want a scrambled egg on a breakfast sandwich, I think it should be folded. You know what I mean? Like like a kind of almost an omelet where
I like a folded
okay.
egg.
Yeah, a folded egg I can get behind because like I like an omelet. An omelet is good. The problem I have with these patties they're creating is all of the moisture is sucked out of it, which makes it rubbery. It's like when you put meat or an egg in the microwave. That's the most disgusting thing ever.
I can't go with you on this one. You
Yeah.
make a
This
solid
is-
you make a solid case.
I point me to the loose.
Listen,
I was gonna say point me to
I was
the. I was gonna say point me to these loose booty eggs on a sandwich that's doing it right. And I think you can. Like, let me see
no,
these.
because places used to do it and now they're doing it to like cut corners financially. And what really grinds my gears is when I reached out to this place that I used to go to, they were like, it's more environmentally friendly to make it this way and cost effective. I was like, don't give me this.
Oh, I don't care.
That's not
I
what
don't
I'm
know
looking
about
for.
that.
Yeah.
I just think it's just easier. I do think a breakfast sandwich, and this was my take, is I think a breakfast sandwich should be portable. I think it should be something that you can easily eat while walking or even on the train. I know people have feelings about eating on the train.
Simone, don't eat on the train.
Man, I
I'm
don't
gonna
got
bust
time
this
for
sandwich
this.
down where
I
I'm
don't
gonna
got
bust
time
it.
for this. Yeah.
Again, at home, loose scrambled egg sandwich with
Yeah.
some
Booty
toast or a
egg.
bagel.
In
Loose
my
booty
own with
egg.
my own plates where
Yeah,
I'm gonna do the dishes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the other reason why actually the breakfast burrito is, as much as I love bagels, a breakfast burrito is like the best vehicle because you can have a loose egg and everything is in there
I think you're maybe
inside
not wrong.
contained.
I think
No.
you're maybe not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Again,
can see that.
not
Are you
these
giving-
loose booty burritos.
No, that makes it sound like I have a loose booty.
No, no.
Loose booty? Listen, if anybody in Chicago is listening to this and they own
I
a
hope someone in
restaurant-
Chicago is listening to this.
Well, no. But if anyone in Chicago is listening to this and they also own a restaurant that makes a breakfast burrito or a breakfast sandwich with a loose booty egg, call me up. My DMs are open. I will come. I will eat it, and I will sing your praises. I don't care where
Review
you
it on
are. You gotta.
camera.
Yeah, I'll do. Well, no, I'm not gonna do it. I can't do a burrito on camera because I'm not gonna eat anything on camera that is like pipe shaped. You know what I mean? Simone just went like behind her desk for a bit.
No, because I appreciated your pause in there, like because it was not clear what was coming next.
I knew what was coming next. I just
No,
didn't
I
know
knew
what
what was
the
coming next.
adjective
No,
was going to
exactly.
be.
I just
Well, I
didn't
was
know
trying
which
to
word you were going for, and so the
find
pause was perfect.
An adjective that was both accurate and appropriate. So don't ask me to come and review your popsicles or I don't know, frozen bananas, hot dogs, anything like that. But a sandwich, I'll do that.
If you catch Lee at the Pickle Fest,
Don't
keep your osmos
Pickles! I
to
forgot
yourself.
about that. Pickles.
Keep your DJIs to yourself.
Yeah, get away from me. If you shake out your camera, I will throw hands.
We'll give a huge thank you to our guest today, executive producer Simone Alisea.
Thanks, Jacoby.
Thank you so much. Contributor Lee John Greco.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you making the time and playing along. If you are still listening to the episode at this point, please head over to chicago.citycast.fm. That is where you can subscribe to our daily newsletter. You can check out our events calendar. And if you really love this episode so much that you're thinking, I want to pay these people for this experience, for this information, then hey, visit membership.citycast.fm. And for $10 a month, we are going to throw in addition to all of this hilarity, we're going to give you ad-free listening, access to neighbors only events, and every week we'll send you some of our favorite things happening in and around the city. Again, that's membership.citycast.fm.
I was going to say, if you donate to CityCast today, maybe I'll send you a video of me eating a breakfast burrito.
Don't promise anything you're not willing to deliver on, Lee.
If the tote bags and the beanies ain't got them, pulling out all the stops here, y'all. Actually, our executive producer is hanging around for a little bit longer because we got a quick conversation sponsored by the Other Art Fair.
Hey, it's executive producer Simone Alicea here, and I'm here with Nicole Garten, the Other Art Fair's Global Fair Director. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, great to be here.
We're really glad to have you. Thanks for joining us. So, what can folks expect from the Other Art Fair, and how is it different from traditional art spaces?
So the Other Art Fair was founded really with the idea of bringing artists in direct connection with art lovers all over the world. We were founded in London in 2011 and then opened in the US in 2017, first in Brooklyn and then expanding into LA, Chicago, and now Dallas. Chicago's been an amazing city, obviously such a creative city, so many artists, museums, and art lovers. So what's amazing about the Other Art Fair, and the name is a little bit of a clue, it's a place where you can meet the artists directly in person. They're there presenting their own work. So, you come out to the fair, you'll meet over 100 artists from all over the world. Half of them are typically local to the city that we're in. So you'll definitely find tons of artists from the local community, as well as across the Midwest, the US, and further afield. They're there to explain their works, their journey, share their culture, their background. And it's important to us that people feel comfortable. So all of our prices are listed up front. They're next to the artwork. There's no mystery. You don't have to feel dumb or, this isn't for me. You can see clearly, oh, actually, this original artwork is way more affordable than I would have thought. So that kind of just sets the tone of like, hey, we're here for you and we hope you have fun while you're here.
Well, and I kind of want to dig into that because I think there's a perception that art collectors, right, are these super wealthy elite types. Art collection is really only if you have that kind of cash to spend. But it sounds like you're trying to reach audiences who maybe wouldn't immediately think of themselves as the art collector type.
So much of art is very expensive and we hear these crazy auction prices. But what's amazing about our fair and particularly working with emerging artists is it's kind of the beginning end of the market. You're getting them before they've been snatched up by galleries. And so they're still very affordable. All of the works at our fair are under $10,000. And really the sweet spot is between about $100 to $2,000. So you can find something amazing that, next year, maybe that artist will be presented by a gallery and their prices will double. But you can find them first and get them when they're still, relatively inexpensive.
Speaking of, an artist you might see one year versus what you see the next year. At the Other Art Fair, are people generally seeing the same artists year after year, or how do you get new talent?
Yeah, so for us, it's really important to be a champion for artists coming up, as well as to help mid-career artists. So we get people at different points in their journey. We have an open call for artists twice a year in each of our markets. It's free to apply, and we just welcome people, whatever stage of your career or your artistic practice. We're very open-minded and supportive of people working in newer mediums, and we really want to encourage breaking down barriers, whether it's age barriers, language barriers, things that the traditional art world might sort of turn its nose up. We're always looking for new artists. And in order to keep it fresh, we have a fresh new selection committee with each edition of the fair. So there's going to be people weighing in, evaluating the caliber of the work, the quality, the potential, really. There are some popular artists who like coming back year after year, but typically it's about 50% brand new every time. So every time you come, it's going to be a different fair and a different group of artists.
I love that you mentioned bringing in new up-and-coming artists. As someone who has spent the past few years learning to paint myself, it's a nice little piece of encouragement. And of course, always great to see that kind of art. I believe in Chicago, the dates for the Other Art Fair, April 9th through the 12th. And what is this year's theme?
So this year, we have an exciting theme. It's called Nostalgia Core, and it's really about, we're so inundated with digital technologies, the rise of AI, relegating humans to sort of the background. For us, it was kind of like, how can we celebrate artists who are reminding us why we're here, walking around, doing what we do? And how the materiality of felt experience, grounding emotions and memories in a physical space, connecting with people through tactile, tangible objects, and sort of just the comfort that comes from reflecting on childhood. So rediscovering the past with new eyes and maybe new applications for what they mean in our current context.
Well, that's beautiful. I love that. Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
Again, the Other Art Fair in Chicago, April 9th through the 12th. You can find out more at theotherartfair.com. We're also going to have that link in our show notes as well.
We can't shut this thing down without some good news. You can catch Professional Women's Hockey League coming to the All-State Arena in Rosemont this Wednesday when the New York Sirens take on the Seattle Torrent. Also taking place up at Martin Stadium in Evanston, the Chicago Stars face off against Orlando FC. We're going to drop links to both games in our show notes. Again, head to our website, check out our events calendar. Most importantly, please be back here bright and early tomorrow. We'll talk to you then. Peace.